New disturbing details in the Felicia Johnson case. Court documents revealing how she met 28-year-old Chukwuebuka Nwobodo, the man wanted in her murder.
In February 2023, a chilling discovery was made in the Sam Houston National Forest. The upper torso of a woman was found, hidden beneath a pile of rocks. The remains, though barely recognizable, were confirmed to be those of 24-year-old Felicia Johnson, a woman from San Diego, California, who had traveled to Houston to celebrate her birthday. Her family had not heard from her for days. No calls, no texts, no social media updates. Felicia's father, Kevin Johnson, was frantic. He knew something was wrong, but he never could have imagined the devastating truth that awaited him. Felicia was a beautiful, ambitious young woman with big dreams. She aspired to have a successful career in modeling, and though she had not reached that goal yet, she was working tirelessly to make it a reality. She wanted to see the world, explore new opportunities, and build a life beyond San Diego. Her birthday trip to Houston was meant to be a celebration, a chance to experience the excitement of a new city and all the possibilities that came with it. But instead, it became the last chapter of her story. The night Felicia disappeared, she was last seen at a club where she had applied for a job as an entertainer, but was turned away. She then called a taxi, but instead of waiting for it, she accepted a ride from a stranger. She would never be seen again. Her disappearance left behind only a bloodied phone and a trail that would eventually lead to an unimaginable truth. Who was the killer? What happened to Felicia after she entered that car? Was this a random act of violence, or was something darker at play? These were the questions that kept the Johnson family awake at night. This wasn't just a missing person case. It was the beginning of a heartbreaking journey, a journey that would uncover manipulation, betrayal, and a calculated murder. Felicia's body was eventually discovered, but the person responsible for her death remained at large. The mystery deepened, but one thing was clear. Felicia's family would not rest until justice was served. They would search for the truth, no matter how long it took. Felicia Johnson was born on March 19, 1998, to Kevin Johnson and Felicia Lee Smith in San Diego. As the oldest of three children, Felicia was always the responsible one. She helped her younger siblings with schoolwork, took care of household tasks, and made sure the family stayed close. Her parents had separated when she was young, and her father later remarried, but Felicia remained incredibly close to him. Kevin described his daughter as beautiful, kind-hearted, and always willing to help others. She had a smile that could light up any room. Beyond her beauty, Felicia had big dreams. She knew she had the looks that could turn heads, but she was determined to make a career out of them. She worked hard on her appearance, practiced her modeling skills, and strategically used her social media presence to build connections in the industry. She wasn't just chasing fame, she wanted to build a better life for herself. Her father, Kevin, was proud of her ambition, though he knew how much she longed for a bigger life, one beyond the familiar streets of San Diego. Felicia's journey to Houston was meant to be the start of something exciting, but instead it became the beginning of a tragic story. The questions around her death only continue to grow, and her family remains committed to finding the answers. If you want to stay updated on the search for justice in Felicia's case and learn more about this heartbreaking story, make sure to subscribe to True Crime Journal. Don't miss a single detail in this ongoing journey for answers. Felicia Johnson was a 24-year-old woman from San Diego, California, full of dreams and ambition. She aspired to build a career in modeling, carefully cultivating her appearance and social media presence. Beneath her confidence, she had a compassionate heart and was always willing to help others. Felicia's vulnerability, though hidden, often made her an easy target, especially when it came to her relationships. Her family, particularly her father, Kevin, worried about the people she trusted, knowing how much she loved deeply and how easily she could be misled. In celebration of her 24th birthday, Felicia decided to treat herself to a trip to Houston, hoping for an adventure and to create lasting memories. She was excited about exploring the city's vibrant nightlife and meeting new people. Her family was thrilled to see how happy she was as she shared pictures and updates of her trip. For a few days, Felicia stayed in touch, posting pictures and expressing her enjoyment of the trip. But then, the unthinkable happened. Her communication stopped. No more updates, no texts, no calls. Her social media went silent. Kevin's concern grew rapidly into panic. He tried reaching out to Felicia, but received no response. After a few days of silence, Kevin hired a private investigator to track her down. Felicia's family feared the worst, and the unsettling silence made it clear that something was terribly wrong. The breakthrough came when the investigator traced Felicia's last phone signal to Bear Creek Park, an overgrown area on the outskirts of Houston. There, Felicia's bloodied phone was discovered, lying along a road near the park. It was a chilling clue that confirmed she had been in danger. Despite the clear signs of violence, the police's response was underwhelming. When they arrived at the scene, they confirmed the phone belonged to Felicia, but their actions lacked urgency. The search of the area was half-hearted, with no clear direction, leaving Kevin feeling helpless and frustrated. The slow response from law enforcement only amplified his growing concern that they weren't taking Felicia's disappearance seriously. Determined to take action, Kevin posted flyers all over Houston, sharing details of Felicia's appearance, including her height, dark skin, and distinctive tattoo. He reached out to the public, urging anyone with information to come forward. Kevin's calls for help flooded social media as he spread the word about his missing daughter, a young woman with big dreams who had been taken far too soon. Felicia's disappearance was not just a missing person case. It was the beginning of a journey that would uncover darker truths. Kevin Johnson's relentless search for answers would drive him to push through the indifference of the police, determined to find his daughter and bring her home. The road ahead would be long and painful, but one thing was certain: Kevin would never give up until justice was served. Felicia Johnson, a 24-year-old woman from San Diego, California, was in Houston to celebrate her birthday and chase her dreams of becoming a model. Ambitious, beautiful, and determined, Felicia had big plans for her life. She worked hard on her appearance and social media presence, hoping to build a successful career. Beneath her confident exterior, however, Felicia had a soft heart. She was compassionate and always willing to lend a hand to anyone in need. This made her vulnerable, especially when it came to trusting others. Her father, Kevin Johnson, always worried about the people she trusted, knowing how easily she could be misled. Felicia's trip to Houston was meant to be a joyful celebration, a moment to escape the routine and experience a new city. She packed with excitement, eagerly sharing pictures of her outfits with her family and posting on social media about her adventure. For a few days, everything seemed perfect. Felicia was posting pictures, sending happy updates, and expressing her excitement about her trip. But then, without warning, the communication stopped. No more posts, no phone calls, no texts. Her social media went silent, and her family's growing concern quickly turned to fear. Kevin tried reaching out to Felicia, but his calls went unanswered. The silence was deafening, and as the days passed, Kevin's worry grew into panic. He knew something was wrong, but had no answers. Desperate, he hired a private investigator to track her down. Felicia's family feared the worst, but they also knew they couldn't give up looking for her.
What the hell?
The search was
there?
just beginning. The first breakthrough came when the private investigator traced Felicia's last known phone signal to Bear Creek Park, a remote and overgrown area on the outskirts of Houston. There, Felicia's bloodied phone was discovered, lying on the side of the road. This chilling discovery confirmed her worst fears. Felicia had been in danger. But the police's...
Okay, update. Because that's exactly what the fuck. Time out. So now we got a second body. For some reason, female, hidden up in the attic. We did not get paid for this. That is 2 bodies, not 1. So, do I get a tip, or what's going on with that? I need to know. Like, we gonna make a phone call, or whatever.
His response was underwhelming. The officers who arrived at the scene confirmed that the phone belonged to Felicia, but did not act with urgency. Despite the clear signs of violence, there was no immediate search or sense of panic. The investigation seemed half-hearted, leaving Kevin feeling helpless and frustrated. With no time to waste, Kevin took matters into his own hands. He posted flyers all over Houston, hoping someone would come forward with information. He shared details about Felicia's appearance, her height, her dark skin, her tattoo of butterflies and roses. Kevin reached out to the community through social media, urging people to look out for his daughter and report any suspicious activity. He couldn't rest until he knew what happened to her. His search for answers was far from over. As the investigation continued, a critical piece of the puzzle was uncovered. Felicia's brief interaction with a local adult entertainment club, CoverGirls. She had applied for a job as a dancer, hoping to make ends meet. However, her application was rejected. This rejection marked the last known interaction before Felicia disappeared. She was left stranded in an unfamiliar city without a way to return to her hotel. Feeling vulnerable and unsure of what to do, she called for a taxi, hoping for a safe ride back. But instead of waiting for the taxi, Felicia accepted a ride from a stranger, Chukwuka Nu Abodo. Nu Abodo, a 28-year-old Nigerian-American living in Houston, was not a taxi driver. He had been watching Felicia and had other far more sinister plans for her. Smooth-talking and persuasive, Nu offered Felicia a ride, and in her vulnerable state, she accepted. This seemingly innocent decision would lead her straight into his trap. He drove Felicia to her hotel, dropping her off at the Houston Medical Center Hotel. At this point, Felicia may have felt safe, unaware that Nu had darker intentions. Nu Abodo, however, had been planning this moment for some time. His involvement in Felicia's disappearance was not an accident or coincidence. He had been tracking her movements, studying her, and waiting for the right moment to strike. As the investigation deepened, authorities uncovered something chilling: Nu Abodo's online search history. His phone was filled with disturbing queries such as how to bleach DNA, the most wooded part of Houston, and how to get away with murder. These searches revealed a premeditated plan. Nu had been preparing for the murder well before Felicia even entered his car. The search history provided disturbing insight into Nu's intentions. He wasn't just a random predator. He had calculated every step of his plan. He researched how to dispose of a body without leaving a trace, how to avoid detection, and even how to erase evidence. The chilling details of his online activity confirmed that Felicia's death was the result of a cold, calculated crime, not a random act of violence. It wasn't just about taking her life. It was about covering his tracks and making sure he wouldn't be caught. As investigators dug deeper into Nu's past, they discovered a pattern of troubling behavior. Nu had been involved in previous violent incidents, including an alleged attempt to assault a woman. However, the victim in that case later chose not to press charges, which allowed Nu to continue his dangerous behavior. This pattern of manipulation, deceit, and violence was no coincidence. It pointed to a man who had been grooming himself for something darker. Nu Abodo wasn't just a random killer. He was a dangerous predator who had targeted Felicia for reasons that remained unknown. Felicia's family, particularly her father, Kevin, was relentless in his search for justice. As the investigation revealed more about Nu's actions and his past, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Felicia was not just a random victim. She had been carefully chosen by Nu, someone who had been watching her, studying her, and waiting for the right moment to strike. After driving Felicia to a secluded apartment complex, Nu Abodo carried out his crime with chilling brutality. Once inside, Felicia fought for her life, but Abodo overpowered her. The scene showed clear signs of a struggle. She scratched, pushed, and desperately tried to escape. After killing Felicia, Nu went to great lengths to cover his tracks, dismembering her body. He had prepared for this gruesome task by purchasing tools such as a kitchen saw, gloves, garbage bags, and a flashlight, indicating premeditation. This was no spur-of-the-moment act. It was a calculated attempt to erase all evidence. Nu Abodo didn't just kill Felicia, he meticulously dismembered her body and placed the parts in garbage bags. He then drove to a remote area near Bear Creek Park in Montgomery County, Texas, deep within the Sam Houston National Forest, where he dumped her remains, believing the secluded location would make it difficult for authorities to find her. His aim was to make Felicia's death disappear completely, hiding her body under rocks to decompose and erasing every trace of her existence. However, Nu underestimated the power of justice. After disposing of the body, he attempted to further cover his tracks by tampering with Felicia's phone. The bloodied phone was discovered near Bear Creek Park, but he failed to fully erase the data, which would later become crucial evidence for detectives. In addition to this, New visited a home goods store shortly after the murder, where he purchased more items, garbage bags, gloves, a flashlight, and a shovel, tools that were directly tied to the dismemberment and disposal of Felicia's body. He tried to remove all connections to the crime, but his attempts were futile. Though Nuobodo took great care to cover his steps, his actions only led investigators closer to the truth. The timeline of events began to unravel, and with each new discovery, it became clear that his every move was part of a premeditated plan to evade capture. His calculated efforts to hide his crime only deepened the gravity of his actions and ultimately led to the gathering of evidence that would bring him to justice. The breakthrough in Felicia Johnson's case came when detectives discovered surveillance footage from CoverGirls, the adult entertainment club where Felicia had applied for a job. The footage showed that Felicia had been rejected and left the club. Afterward, she called for a taxi, but instead of waiting, she accepted a ride from Chukwuka Nuobodo. This decision led her directly into his hands. Detectives found more evidence linking Nuobodo to the crime, including traces of Felicia's blood in his apartment. Forensics confirmed the blood belonged to her. In addition, Nu's search history revealed disturbing queries such as how to bleach DNA, how to get away with murder, and places to live for as low as $1,000. These searches confirmed that the murder was premeditated, not a spur-of-the-moment act. As the investigation continued, it became clear that Nu had been hiding in plain sight, acting as if nothing had happened. His movements were traced, and the evidence continued to pile up. But despite this, Nu managed to evade capture for months, frustrating both the police and the Johnson family. Kevin Johnson, Felicia's father, had been tirelessly pushing for answers, posting flyers, and calling attention to his daughter's case. As time passed, his frustration grew. He had already lost Felicia, and now he was losing faith in the system meant to protect her. A year after Felicia's disappearance, in February 2023, a decomposing body was discovered in the Sam Houston National Forest. The body, which was only part of Felicia's remains, was identified through personal items and the location of the discovery. Kevin was devastated but also relieved to know the truth. The pain of confirming Felicia's death was unbearable, but at least it ended months of uncertainty. Nu's capture still seemed out of reach, and his continued evasion only deepened the family's frustration. Despite mounting evidence, Nu remained free, and the search for him continued. The community's support for the Johnson family was unwavering, but as the wait stretched on, hope began to fade. Throughout the agonizing year, Kevin never gave up. His emotional toll was immense, but his resolve to see justice for his daughter kept him going. Kevin's vow to never stop searching for Felicia's killer drove him forward, even as the road seemed endlessly long. Finally, in May 2023, Nuobodo was arrested. After months of evading the law, he was caught and brought back to Houston to face the consequences of his actions. The trial that followed led to Nu's conviction for Felicia's murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. While this wasn't the death sentence Kevin had hoped for, it was justice. Kevin's pain would never completely disappear, but the fight for Felicia's justice had been won. Kevin's final words in the courtroom were a testament to his unyielding love for his daughter. "You took my daughter from me, but you won't take away her memory. She was more than a victim. She was a person with dreams." His fight for justice had been long and painful, but it had brought him some closure. The case of Felicia Johnson's murder reminds us all of the importance of community, vigilance, and the pursuit of justice. Kevin's story is a reminder that justice doesn't always come easily, but it's worth fighting for, no matter how long it takes. After nearly a year of searching, authorities finally captured Chukwuka Nuobodo in May 2023. Despite his attempts to hide under a new identity, the pressure from the public, activists, and Felicia Johnson's family pushed law enforcement to intensify their efforts. Nu was found in an apartment complex in a neighboring state where he had been living off the radar. His arrest brought relief to Felicia's family, especially her father, Kevin Johnson, who had been carrying the emotional weight of his daughter's disappearance for months. New was now going to face justice. The trial that followed was a tough emotional journey for everyone involved. The evidence against New was overwhelming. His online searches for things like how to bleach DNA in how to get away with murder, combined with the blood found in his apartment and his purchase of tools for dismemberment, painted a clear picture of a premeditated crime. New tried to defend himself, claiming it was an accident, but the jury was unconvinced. In the end, New was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. While this sentence wasn't the death penalty Kevin had hoped for, it provided a sense of justice for her loved ones.
Tonight in Richland County, where a murder trial ends before it ever begins. 31-year-old Taylor Wardlaw pled guilty to killing her boyfriend, 26-year-old Terrell Sims, in December of 2021.
December 2021, Columbia, South Carolina. A young mother appears on Facebook Live, her voice shaking, eyes red with tears. "Please," she begs, "help me find Terrell. He's been missing for 2 days. He wouldn't just leave us." She's holding a photo of her boyfriend, the father of her child, and pleading with the public to care. And they do. Volunteers form search parties. Flyers go up on telephone poles and convenience store windows. Neighbors and strangers alike join in, hoping to bring Terrell Sims home safe. At the center of it all is Taylor Wardlaw, heartbroken, determined, camera ready. But there's one problem. Taylor already knew where Terrell was because she killed him. As the city searched, she watched. As the cameras rolled, she lied. She wasn't just hiding a crime, she was controlling the story step by step. And that brings us to a question that chills the soul. How could someone murder the person they claim to love and then organize search parties to find them? This isn't just a true crime story. It's a story about control, about manipulation, about what it means to wear a mask so well, even the people closest to you can't see through it. If you care about real stories that don't just reveal what happened, but help us understand why, then you're in the right place. Subscribe now to join a community that goes beyond the headlines. We study true crime to spot warning signs, protect each other, and make sure the truth never stays buried. This is the story of Terrell Sims and what Taylor Wardlaw did to him. Before the news cameras, before the search parties, before the headlines and heartbreak, there was just a man named Terrell Sims. He was 26 years old, a proud father, a twin brother, a man trying to do the right thing in a world that didn't always make it easy. To his family and friends, Terrell was more than just a name or a photo. He was the guy who walked into a room and made people smile. Not because he tried too hard, but because joy seemed to follow him. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, but he had a way of making people feel safe, like they could breathe easier when he was around. Most of all, Terrell was a dad, a father of 4 kids, from different relationships, yes, but he never treated them like pieces of his life. They were the center of it, his world. Terrell made sure each one of his kids felt seen, whether it was walking his oldest to school, helping his second one learn music, taking his quiet middle child fishing, or rocking his youngest to sleep. He showed up, always. His apartment wasn't much, but it told you everything you needed to know about him. Crayon drawings covered the fridge. A big wall calendar marked birthdays, school events, custody weekends. His phone, filled with photos and videos, little moments he refused to forget. First steps, dance battles, Saturday pancakes, they all mattered to him. Life wasn't easy. Money was tight. Terrell worked wherever he could, construction, landscaping, even cleaning jobs when things got rough. He'd pick up extra shifts to make sure his kids had what they needed, especially around Christmas. A former coworker said, "He never asked for anything, he just worked harder." He didn't complain, not once. And when the world got heavy, Terrell turned to music. It wasn't just a hobby, it was his therapy. He called himself tea, and used a corner of his closet as a tiny studio. His songs weren't about fame, they were about life, fatherhood, stress, hope. He'd wait until the kids were asleep, then record his tracks, quietly pouring his heart into every line. He even had a dream, to leave something behind for his children. Not money, not stuff, but a voice, a sound, a reminder that their father lived, loved, and dreamed just like they do. He was building something small but powerful, a life, a legacy. His bond with his twin sister Marcella was unshakable. They were more than siblings. They were soulmates in a way only twins can understand. "Half of me is gone," Marcella said after his death. "When I hurt, he hurt. When I needed him, he just showed up." That's who Terrell was, a strong, silent type. Not perfect, but real. He made mistakes, like we all do, but he loved hard, and he gave everything he had to the people he cared about. Terrell Sims didn't ask for a spotlight. He asked for peace, for time with his children, for the space to create, love, and grow. He was still learning how to balance it all: work, fatherhood, relationships, music, when his life was taken from him. And in the worst kind of twist, the person who took it was the one who was supposed to love him most. Terrell met Taylor Warlaw in 2018 at a friend's get-together in Colombia. It wasn't anything fancy, just music, drinks, and people laughing. But from the moment their eyes met, the energy between them was strong, fast, intense, and full of sparks. At first, it looked like love. Within a few months, they were living together. Their social media pages showed happy moments: selfies on the couch, dinner dates, playful captions about building a life together. Friends commented with hearts and fire emojis. From the outside, it seemed like they had something solid. But behind the photos, things were different. The people closest to Terrell started noticing small changes. Taylor wasn't just loving, she was possessive. She needed to know where he was all the time. If he didn't answer her text fast enough, she got angry. When he was with his other kids, she'd call repeatedly, sometimes even video calling just to make sure he was really with them. At first, Terrell brushed it off. He told friends she just cared too much. But caring turned into control. She began pulling him away from his support system. Friends stopped hearing from him. Family visits became less frequent. Marcella, his twin, said he was becoming harder to reach. "He was still my brother," she said, but something in his eyes had shifted. He wasn't laughing the same anymore. Taylor also took control over their finances. Terrell, who had always been careful with money, now had to explain every purchase. She questioned how much he spent on his other kids. Even his music, his one safe space, became monitored. Taylor insisted on being in the studio with him, said she needed to be there to support him, but really it was about watching him. Over time, Terrell started to shrink. He became quieter, nervous, always checking his phone, always trying to avoid an argument. He walked on eggshells, not knowing what might set her off. He apologized often, even when he hadn't done anything wrong. The confidence that once defined him was fading. To some, it may have looked like just another rocky relationship. But to those who knew him, especially Marcella, it was clear something wasn't right. Terrell was changing. Not because he wanted to, but because he was slowly being controlled. And the worst part, he hadn't even seen the danger yet. By 2020, the cracks in Terrell and Taylor's relationship had deepened. That year, Taylor accused Terrell of domestic violence. She told police he had pointed a gun at her while she was 9 months pregnant. Terrell denied the claims, said it never happened, but he was arrested and held in jail. He missed the birth of his child. He missed the first smiles, the first steps, the quiet moments new parents usually share. All he had were a few photos sent to him behind bars. He stayed locked up for almost a year. Then something strange happened. In August 2021, Taylor posted his bail. Even though there was a no-contact order in place, even after accusing him of threatening her life, she brought him back home. And just like that, they were a couple again. Friends and family were confused, hurt, angry. Why would he go back, they asked, after everything? But Terrell had his reasons. He missed his child. He wanted to be present. He thought maybe, just maybe they could raise their baby in peace. But deep down, he was already making an exit plan. By December 2021, he had quietly started telling family members he was done. After the holidays, he planned to move out. He wanted to co-parent peacefully, focus on his kids, and leave the drama behind. But Taylor sensed the shift. She became more clingy, more emotional, more unpredictable. She started texting him constantly. Her messages flipped between pleading and threatening. One moment she'd say she couldn't live without him. The next, she warned him of what might happen if he left. Terrell tried to stay calm. He didn't want to fight. He just wanted to leave the right way. But Taylor wasn't going to let him go quietly. On December 20th, everything came to a head. They argued again. This time it was about his Christmas plans, where he would spend the holiday when he would see his other children. It wasn't a new fight, but that night it felt heavier, more serious, and neither of them knew it yet, but it would be the last argument they'd ever have. At around 9 p.m., neighbors inside a Columbia, South Carolina apartment complex heard raised voices. Terrell Sims and Taylor Wardlaw were arguing again, louder this time, heated, tense. Inside the apartment, Terrell was packing a small bag. He had made up his mind. He wasn't going to wait until after the holidays. He told Taylor clearly and calmly that he was leaving that night. He wasn't angry. He was just done. He'd had enough of the fighting, the control, the threats. He wanted peace for himself and for his kids. He wanted out. But Taylor wasn't letting go. As Terrell turned his back to leave the bedroom, Taylor went into the kitchen. She opened the drawer and pulled out a gun. She followed him down the hallway, and then she pulled the trigger. The first shot hit Terrell in the shoulder. He spun around in shock, confused, trying to understand what was happening. The second shot missed, but the third struck him in the back as he turned to run. He collapsed in the bedroom. There was no struggle, no self-defense, no warning. Just a decision, fast, violent, final. Terrell fell to the floor, bleeding out, and Taylor didn't check if he was still alive. She didn't call for help. She didn't dial 911. She didn't try to save him. Instead, she reached for her phone and called someone else. His name was Eddie Youngster Brown, a man she'd known for a while, a man she'd kept in contact with, even while she was with Terrell. Phone records later showed that Taylor called Eddie 3 times in the span of 10 minutes. While Terrell lay dead in the next room, Taylor walked around the apartment cleaning. She grabbed paper towels and cleaning supplies. She wiped blood from the floor. She picked up shell casings. She removed Terrell's wallet, his phone, and most importantly, his ankle monitor. The monitor had been put on him months earlier when he was released from jail. It tracked his location 24/7. If it stayed still too long, it would alert authorities. So Taylor took it off quickly, before the signal could be flagged. Then she stood in front of the bathroom mirror and rehearsed the story she would later tell police. She practiced the tone, the timing, the words. He left after an argument. I haven't heard from him since. It was all part of a plan, and it was just getting started. Around midnight, Eddie Youngster Brown arrived at the apartment. Security footage from the building showed him walking in with an empty duffel bag. When he left, that same bag was heavy, slung over his shoulder, carefully zipped up. Inside it was Terrell's body. Taylor and Brown had wrapped him in plastic, tightly. Together, they carried him out of the apartment and into Brown's car. Quiet, quick, like they'd done it before. They drove through the cold night, heading out of the city. About 7 miles away, near Monticello Road, they found a stretch of woods, dense, dark, and barely traveled in winter. They carried Terrell's body down a steep slope near a creek, covered him with branches and leaves, did their best to make it look like no one had ever been there. Before leaving, they tossed his ankle monitor in a separate dumpster behind a gas station miles away. That was Taylor's idea, spreading the evidence, making it harder to trace. They weren't done yet. Before heading back into Columbia, they stopped at an all-night car wash. Brown sprayed down the inside and outside of the vehicle. Taylor wiped down surfaces. They worked like a team. Like this wasn't their first cover-up. They dumped the cleaning supplies, plastic wrap, and Terrell's personal items, his phone, his ID, everything. into separate trash bins across the city, pieces of evidence scattered miles apart. By sunrise, the job was done, and Terrell was gone. For 2 days, Taylor said nothing. No report, no concern, just silence. Then on December 22nd, 48 hours after the shooting, she walked into a police station in Columbia. She sat across from Officer James Mendez and said she wanted to report her boyfriend missing. She told him they had a small argument, that he walked out to cool off, that she hadn't heard from him since. She played the part perfectly. Worried, tired, teary-eyed. She even handed over her phone for officers to check, knowing she had already deleted her text with Brown. She mentioned Terrell's ankle monitor, said maybe it had malfunction. Maybe that's why no one had seen him. Mendez gave her a case number and told her the police would start looking. That's all she needed. Within hours, Taylor took her story public. She posted Terrell's photo on Facebook with the caption, "Please help me find my children's father. He would never just leave us." She went live on Instagram, crying, begging people to look for him. She tagged local news stations. She called friends. She shared old photos of them together. She begged the public to help, and they believed her. No one suspected the truth, that the woman leading the search already knew exactly where Terrell was, because she put him there. For nearly 2 weeks, Taylor Wardlaw's lie held strong. She posted updates. She cried in videos. She led search parties. But quietly, the investigation was closing in. It started with a review of Terrell's ankle monitor. When officers finally looked at the data, it was clear. The device stopped moving the night of December 20th, the same night neighbors heard yelling. There was no activity after 9 p.m., then the signal went dead. That wasn't a malfunction. That was the moment Terrell's life ended. Next, investigators pulled Taylor's phone records. Her GPS location told a very different story than the one she gave police. On the night she claimed to be home waiting for Terrell to return, her phone had actually pinged near Monticello Road, the same remote area where the body was eventually found. That raised a red flag, so detectives brought in the K9 unit. They searched the wooded area near the ping location, and sure enough, about 200 yards into the trees, they found a shallow, makeshift grave. Under leaves and branches, they discovered Terrell's body. He had been shot multiple times. One of the bullets had entered through his back. This wasn't a fight. It wasn't self-defense. It was execution. The coroner confirmed it. The evidence couldn't be ignored, and neither could everything else the investigation uncovered. Text messages between Taylor and Eddie Brown were recovered. Some had been deleted, but forensic techs brought them back. In one message, Taylor told Brown, "We need to clean this up." Police found receipts for cleaning products purchased the same night as the murder. Surveillance footage from a car wash showed Taylor and Brown scrubbing the vehicle late at night when no one else was around. Even her internet search history betrayed her. She had Googled questions like, how long before a missing person is declared dead? How to clean blood from carpet? But the biggest blow came from someone close. Taylor's own friend, Jasmine Williams, came forward. She told police that Taylor called her the night of the murder. Panicked, breathing heavy, she said, "I shot him. Can you watch the baby?" Jasmine had kept quiet at first, scared, unsure. But once she heard Terrell's body had been found, she couldn't hold it in anymore. Other witnesses stepped forward too. Neighbors who heard gunshots, a gas station worker who saw Brown cleaning the car. All the puzzle pieces were falling into place. Taylor's story was cracking, and now it was only a matter of time before it completely broke. On January 6, 2022, police knocked on the door of Taylor's mother's house. Taylor was inside packing suitcases. It looked like she was getting ready to leave town. She didn't cry. She didn't protest. She didn't say a word. She was calm, like she already knew the truth had caught up to her. Taylor Wardlaw was arrested and charged with murder. Eddie Youngster Brown was arrested the same day and charged as an accessory after the fact. At first, Taylor stuck to her story. She claimed self-defense, said Terrell had become aggressive, that she feared for her life. But the evidence told a different story, and there was a lot of it. The ankle monitor logs, the phone pings, the text messages, the internet searches, the video footage, the witness statements. Bit by bit, her story collapsed under the weight of the truth. For 2 years, the case made its way through South Carolina's court system. There were hearings, motions, delays. But by March 2024, Taylor's legal team knew they had no strong defense. So they approached prosecutors with a deal. Taylor agreed to plead guilty to first-degree murder. In exchange, the state dropped the extra charges, weapons possession, obstruction of justice, and offered her a fixed sentence, 20 years in prison. Under South Carolina law, she must serve at least 85% of her sentence. No early parole, no shortcuts. She will be behind bars for at least 17 years. As part of the deal, Taylor had to give a full confession and admit the killing was planned. She also had to give up her right to appeal. Eddie Brown had already taken his own plea deal, 5 years in prison for his role in covering up the crime, plus testifying against Taylor. At sentencing, Judge Maria Gonzalez looked Taylor in the eye and said, "You didn't just take a life. You tricked a city into mourning with you. You wore grief like a costume. That level of deception reveals a deep lack of conscience." And with that, the gavel came down. The case was closed. But the pain Terrell's family carried was just beginning. After Terrell's death, life changed forever for the people who loved him most. His 4 children were taken in by his twin sister, Marcella, and his mother. The youngest still asks when Daddy's coming home. The others are old enough to know the truth, but not old enough to understand why. Marcella has stepped up, not only as a caregiver, but as a voice for Terrell's legacy. She started a foundation to support children who have lost parents to violence. "We want them to remember his voice, his laughter, his love," she said. Terrell's friends helped mix and release his music, the songs he recorded in that little closet studio. His voice now lives on, just like he hoped. Community members raised funds to support his kids. A trust was created and donations are still coming in. Strangers became supporters. Pain turned into purpose. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved you, like, comment, and subscribe for more real stories that pull back the mask and shine a light on the truth. Don't just watch, stay aware, stay safe.
Section 2 reads, "We, the jury in this case, having found defendant guilty of murder, further find and specify that the defendant, Terrell Edwards, did have a firearm on or about his person or under his control while committing the offense."
In the late hours of October 9th, 2023, a joyful moment turned to heartbreak when Amanda S. Williams, a vibrant 46-year-old woman full of life, ambition, and dreams, was shot dead by the very man she had just agreed to marry. Just hours earlier, her fiancé, Terrell Edwards, had proposed to her. The room had filled with laughter, love, and promises of a future together. Yet, in a tragic twist, that same future was violently ripped away in the very place that was supposed to be her sanctuary. At 11:30 p.m., the phone rang in the Warrenville Heights Police Department. On the other end was Terrell Edwards, his voice cold and trembling as he confessed to a crime that no one saw coming. "I just shot my fiancé," he said, urgency in his voice. It was a statement that would send shockwaves through the community, and it set the stage for the heartbreaking scene that law enforcement would find upon arrival. Inside the apartment, Amanda lay lifeless on the floor, her body covered with gunshot wounds. The woman who had been full of dreams, plans, and love was now gone. Her tragic death left a gaping hole in the lives of her children, grandchildren, and the community who knew her as a compassionate, hard-working woman with a heart full of love. But one burning question lingered in the air. Why did Terrell, a man who had spent over 6 years with Amanda, suddenly turn violent? How could the same person who had proposed to her just hours before now stand accused of taking her life? What led to this brutal transformation in what appeared to be a loving relationship? Amanda's family, friends, and even the community she helped build through her beauty salon and online presence were left searching for answers. Was it a moment of rage, a misunderstanding spiraled out of control? Or was there something darker at play, something hidden beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect relationship? This story dives deep into the mystery of Amanda's death, the twisted dynamics of her relationship with Terrell, and the shocking details that slowly unraveled in the aftermath. As we unfold the events that led up to that tragic night, we'll examine the chilling details of their relationship, the secrets that were buried, and the heartbreaking consequences of domestic violence. Amanda's story is not just one of loss. It's a cautionary tale of trust, betrayal, and the devastating effects of unaddressed emotional turmoil. If you're moved by Amanda's story, if you feel the pain of those left behind, and if you want to know more about the hidden truths that lurk beneath the surface, subscribe to True Crime Journal now. And while you're here, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. Let's raise us together, because stories like Amanda's need to be heard, not forgotten. Amanda S. Williams was born on April 18, 1977, in Cleveland, Ohio. From the very beginning, it was clear she had a bright spirit and a strong sense of purpose. Raised in a supportive family environment, she was surrounded by love, hard work, and a deep sense of community. Her parents, George L. Williams and Jewel Lewis, instilled in her the values of determination and resilience. Growing up in a close-knit family, Amanda learned early on the importance of staying grounded and giving back to those around her. Amanda attended Shaw High School, where she excelled both academically and socially. She graduated in 1995, armed with the knowledge and ambition to pursue her dreams. But Amanda was never the type to just sit back and wait for things to happen. She always had a vision for her future. After high school, she took the next step toward that future by enrolling at Cleveland State University, where she earned a bachelor's degree. With a strong foundation in education, she was ready to take on the world. But while academics were important, Amanda's heart always lay in the world of beauty and fashion. Even as a child, she had an eye for style, always experimenting with hairstyles and learning the ins and outs of makeup. Whether she was styling her friend's hair or testing out new looks on herself, Amanda was constantly drawn to the transformative power of beauty. It wasn't just about making someone look good. It was about making them feel good. This passion for beauty and self-expression would soon become the cornerstone of her career. As Amanda entered adulthood, she decided to turn her love for beauty into a professional career. She honed her skills as a hairstylist, becoming known for her precision, creativity, and ability to transform her clients. Word spread quickly about her talents, and before long, Amanda had built a solid reputation in the Cleveland area. She didn't just cut hair, she created art. From intricate braids to elegant updos, Amanda's work stood out and her clients were loyal. But Amanda's ambitions didn't stop there. She was determined to build something bigger for herself. She dreamed of owning her own salon, a place where people could feel welcomed, pampered, and empowered. Her dream came true in 2023 when she opened Elam Mode Styles in University Heights, a trendy area near downtown Cleveland. The salon quickly became a hit, attracting a diverse clientele who appreciated Amanda's skill, professionalism, and warm personality. Her hard work and dedication paid off as her business flourished, giving her a sense of accomplishment and pride. Amanda's personal life was just as vibrant and fulfilling as her professional life. She was a proud mother to Tyler M. Williams and Trist W. Beckley, two children who meant the world to her. Her role as a mother was one of the most important parts of her life, and she embraced it wholeheartedly. Amanda was also a loving grandmother to her grandson, Tylen M. Williams, whom she adored. Family was at the center of everything she did, and she poured her heart into raising her children and providing for them. Her social media presence was another way Amanda connected with the world. She used her platforms to share more than just photos of her work. It was a space where she could offer motivational messages, empowering words, and beauty tips to inspire others. Amanda believed deeply in the power of self-improvement and personal growth, and she encouraged her followers to pursue their own dreams and rise above challenges. Her Instagram was filled with uplifting content, from success stories to behind-the-scenes glimpses of her work. It was clear that Amanda wasn't just about making people look good on the outside. She wanted to help them feel good on the inside, too. Her vibrant personality shone through her online presence, and she became a source of positivity for many. Whether she was posting about a new hairstyle, sharing her latest entrepreneurial success, or simply offering words of encouragement, Amanda always had a smile and a kind word for everyone. It wasn't just about the business, it was about the community she was building, both online and in her real life. She was a woman who truly believed that the more you give, the more you receive, and she lived her life by this principle every day. Amanda's journey wasn't just about achieving success. It was about living with passion, sharing love, and being an inspiration to those around her. Her energy, her drive, and her genuine care for others made her a beloved figure in both her professional world and her personal circle. As she continued to grow her business and reach more people, Amanda's future seemed as bright as ever, filled with limitless potential. But as we will see, no one could have anticipated the devastating turn her life would take. Amanda met Terrell Edwards in a way that seemed almost destined. Through mutual friends at a gathering in Cleveland, their connection sparked almost immediately. Terrell, a 41-year-old hospital worker, was easy to talk to, charming, with a confident smile that lit up any room he walked into. He wasn't just handsome. He had that type of charisma that made people gravitate toward him. Amanda, ever the social butterfly, found herself drawn to his energy and kindness. It wasn't long before they became inseparable. At first, their relationship seemed like the perfect match. They bonded over shared values, dreams of success, and a mutual love for adventure. Terrell was respectful, affectionate, and always there when Amanda needed him. They posted pictures together on social media, attending family gatherings, enjoying getaways, and sharing loving captions. To everyone around them, they were the couple that seemed to have it all, the kind of love you could envy from the outside. For the first few years, Amanda thought she had found everything she had ever dreamed of. A partner who encouraged her ambitions, celebrated her victories, and promised to stand by her side through thick and thin. They traveled, enjoyed each other's company, and often shared their milestones with their ever-growing online audience. To her friends and family, Amanda's happiness was evident. But as the years passed, the gloss of their perfect relationship started to dull. Small signs began to appear. Things Amanda tried to ignore or convince herself were just fleeting issues. Terrell's behavior began to shift. What once seemed like harmless teasing or miscommunication started to feel heavier. Amanda noticed the emotional toll it was taking on her. Those little sarcastic comments about her appearance or work ethic were becoming more frequent. At first, she tried to brush them off, thinking it was just stress or frustration on his part. But deep down, she could feel the unease creeping in. The first real sign of trouble came during a disagreement over something as trivial as dinner plans. What should have been a simple discussion spiraled into an argument that left Amanda in tears. Terrell's anger seemed to grow quicker and more explosive, while Amanda was left feeling confused and hurt. Over time, the arguments became more frequent, and the affection they once shared began to feel forced. The physical affection, once overflowing, dwindled, and Amanda started to notice that she was withdrawing emotionally from him. She would find herself alone, wondering if something was wrong with her, if she was missing something, or if maybe it was all in her head. As months passed, Terrell's temper became harder to ignore. The emotional manipulation began to take a more apparent form. He would accuse Amanda of being too much, too demanding of his time, or too independent. She would sometimes catch him staring at her with a coldness she hadn't seen before, and on occasion, his words would cut deeper than they ever had. Despite these unsettling changes, Amanda, ever hopeful and nurturing, believed in the power of love and communication. She thought that with time and effort, they could work through these issues. After all, didn't every couple go through rough patches? So they tried therapy, they attended couples counseling in an attempt to fix what was broken. Amanda hoped that the professional help would bring them back to the foundation they once had, the carefree couple that laughed, loved, and dreamed together. But Terrell was distant during these sessions, often disengaged or even defensive. The therapist encouraged open, honest communication, but Terrell's commitment to the process felt half-hearted. He wasn't as invested in the idea of rebuilding as Amanda was. Still, Amanda held on, believing that it was just a phase, that things would get better with more time and understanding. But the cracks in their relationship were widening, and Amanda could no longer ignore the sinking feeling in her chest. In 2023, after over 6 years of being together, Terrell decided it was time to make things official. He proposed to Amanda in a moment that seemed to promise a new beginning. On social media, the announcement was met with joyous congratulations from friends and family, and Amanda's excitement was palpable. She posted pictures of her sparkling ring, her bright smile, and the couple's happy celebration. It was supposed to be the perfect moment, the beginning of a fresh chapter in their lives. But beneath the surface, Amanda couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had been growing for months. Was she truly happy, or was she just pretending? As Terrell slipped the ring onto her finger, Amanda's mind raced. She loved him, or at least she thought she did. But was this love enough to ignore the growing tension in their relationship? The proposal was supposed to mark the start of their happily ever after, but Amanda couldn't stop wondering. Could this marriage save them, or would it end up sealing her fate in a way she couldn't yet comprehend? The world saw the joy of the engagement, but Amanda couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It was as if she had married a version of Terrell who didn't exist anywhere outside of their shared fantasy. The perfect proposal was just another layer on a relationship that had already begun to crumble beneath the surface. The cracks weren't just in their relationship anymore, they were in Amanda's heart too. She had hoped for change, for things to improve, but deep down, she feared she was holding on to a love that was fading. The proposal may have marked a new chapter, but in Amanda's heart, a storm was brewing, and little did she know, the worst was yet to come. The night of October 9th, 2023 began like any other in the household of Amanda S. Williams and Terrell Edwards. But what should have been a peaceful evening quickly spiraled into something far more sinister. For weeks, tension had been building between the couple. The love that once seemed effortless had started to feel strained, the smiles replaced by silent glares, the words by bitter silences. Despite their best efforts, therapy sessions had failed to heal the wounds of their troubled relationship. It began innocently enough. A simple argument over text messages, the kind of trivial disagreement that might have been forgotten by morning. Terrell had been sitting on the couch, his phone in hand, when Amanda, noticing a message from a woman she didn't recognize, asked him about it. Terrell grew defensive, his tone sharp. "It's just a friend, Amanda," he said, trying to downplay the situation. But Amanda could feel the old familiar tension creeping in, like a dark cloud that never really lifted. "What do you mean, just a friend? We've been having issues and now you're still hiding things from me?" Amanda snapped, her voice rising. "I need to know what's going on, Terrell." The argument escalated quickly from there. Terrell's defensive attitude made Amanda feel like she wasn't being heard, and the more she tried to press for answers, the more Terrell dug in. His anger simmered, his responses sharp and cold. Amanda, exhausted by the constant push and pull, made an ultimatum. "Get out, Terrell." "I'm done with this," she demanded, standing up from the couch and walking toward the door. She wanted him to leave. The atmosphere had become toxic, and she couldn't take the emotional weight of it anymore. The love they once shared had become a battlefield, and she was done fighting. But Terrell wasn't ready to walk away. Not yet. He followed her, his voice rising in frustration. "You don't get to tell me what to do," he shouted, stepping in front of her, blocking her path. Amanda felt trapped. The space that once felt like home now felt suffocating. She wasn't the woman who would stand by and let her dignity be torn down anymore. She had tried for so long, giving everything she had to make the relationship work. But now, the emotional manipulation, the constant fights, and the fear creeping in made her see the reality. This wasn't love anymore. "I'm not going anywhere, Terrell. I've had enough," she said, her voice shaking with a mix of fear and determination. As the argument reached its peak, the atmosphere in the room grew thick with tension. Words became weapons, each sentence a strike, each accusation a wound. In his frustration, Terrell's temper began to flare. His anger wasn't just emotional anymore, it was physical. He began to raise his voice, his fists clenching. He wanted to leave, but it was clear now that he wanted to control how this ended. Then, in a flash, everything changed. Terrell claimed Amanda lunged at him with a knife. In his version of the events, she was aggressive, threatening, trying to hurt him. She had become the villain in his eyes, the one who pushed him to this breaking point. He alleged that, in his fear for his life, he grabbed his own gun and fired. Amanda, he said, was charging toward him, leaving him no other choice but to defend himself. But crucial pieces of evidence told a different story. When police arrived at the scene, they found Amanda lifeless, lying on the floor, her body covered with multiple gunshot wounds. The police didn't find the knife that Terrell had described. Instead, they found Amanda's phone, her blood-stained clothes, and the quiet echo of a life cut short. What they did find, however, were witness testimonies and surveillance footage that didn't match Terrell's story. As officers surveyed the scene, it became clear that Amanda had not posed an imminent threat. No knife had been found near her, no signs of a struggle in the areas Terrell had mentioned. The tension in the room, in the apartment, hung like a cloud. But it wasn't just between the two of them anymore. It was in the air, thick with the weight of Terrell's lie. Terrell Edwards called 911, and when the operator answered, he confessed, his voice shaking. "I shot her. I shot my fiancée." The words echoed in the phone, the confession tumbling out almost mechanically. He said he was sorry, but the damage was already done. The operator asked him to remain calm and confirm his location, but nothing could calm the situation. Amanda was gone, and Terrell was standing in the wreckage of his actions, holding the weight of a decision he would live with for the rest of his life. The officers who arrived on the scene quickly took control, following protocol. But even in that moment, as Terrell sat in the back of the squad car, his expression blank, it was clear that nothing could undo what had happened. The investigation into Amanda's death would continue, but what was clear now was that her life had been taken by the very man she had trusted and loved. Terrell Edwards, in a fit of rage and violence, had destroyed everything they once had. A tragic story of love turned to violence, one that would haunt those who knew Amanda forever. And as the truth began to surface, the real motive behind the murder would come into sharper focus. The courtroom was packed, filled with a sense of tension that was almost palpable. Terrell Edwards sat at the defendant's table, his face somber but composed. His legal team was ready to defend his actions, framing the shooting of Amanda S. Williams as an act of self-defense. The arguments began, and the air seemed to grow heavier with every word spoken. Terrell's defense lawyer began by painting a picture of the night Amanda was killed. He argued that Amanda had threatened Terrell during an intense argument, that she had grabbed a knife, and in a fit of fear for his life, Terrell was left with no choice but to shoot her. The defense worked hard to establish a narrative where Terrell was a victim in the situation, claiming that Amanda's actions had made him feel cornered and defenseless. According to their version of events, he had shot Amanda in self-defense. But the prosecution was ready, and they were determined to expose the flaws in Terrell's story. Cassandra Wade, the prosecutor, was sharp and focused. She began her argument by pointing out the inconsistencies in Terrell's testimony. There was no physical evidence to support his claims of a knife attack. There were no cuts, bruises, or defensive wounds on Terrell, which would have been expected if he had truly been in a life-threatening struggle. The more she spoke, the clearer it became. The defense was not presenting a clear picture of what had really happened that night. The prosecution then presented key evidence that contradicted Terrell's version of events. They showed surveillance footage from the apartment, recorded just moments before the shooting. The video was damning. It clearly showed Amanda setting down a knife, a crucial moment that contradicted Terrell's claim that she had attacked him. In the footage, Amanda was not charging at him or posing a threat in any way. Instead, she was several feet away from Terrell when he pulled the gun and fired. The video painted a picture of a calm Amanda, not someone about to launch an attack. But the most emotional moment of the trial came when Tyler M. Williams, Amanda's daughter, took the stand. She had lived through the pain of losing her mother, and now she had to confront the man who had taken her life. Her voice shook, but her words were clear as she spoke about her mother's character. Tyler shared stories of Amanda's nurturing side, her strength, and the loving, supportive woman she had always been. She painted a portrait of a woman who had given everything for her family, who had been a rock for those she loved. Tyler also didn't hesitate to speak about Terrell's behavior. She told the court about the emotional abuse her mother had suffered at his hands for years, the constant manipulation, and the controlling nature that Terrell had shown behind closed doors. Tyler's testimony was a powerful reminder of who Amanda was and what she had been subjected to in her relationship with Terrell. Medical evidence also came into play. The coroner's report confirmed that Amanda had been shot multiple times at close range. The bullet wounds were consistent with the type of injury one would expect from an execution-style shooting, not a chaotic self-defense situation. The defense had argued that Amanda had attacked Terrell with a knife, but the medical examiner's testimony did not align with this claim. As the trial continued, the prosecution methodically dismantled Terrell's defense. The evidence was overwhelming, and with each passing day, it became clear that Terrell's actions had not been an act of self-defense, but rather an act of murder. Finally, after several days of testimony, the jury began deliberating. The room was filled with anticipation as everyone waited for the verdict. The tension was almost unbearable. Was it self-defense, as Terrell claimed, or was it cold-blooded murder? The jury returned after several hours. Guilty. Terrell Edwards was found guilty of second-degree murder, felony assault, and domestic violence. The judge, after delivering the verdict, sentenced him to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 24 years. There was no question of his remorse. Terrell had shown none throughout the trial. As Terrell was escorted out of the courtroom, there was a collective sense of relief from Amanda's family, even though the pain of their loss would never be fully healed. The justice they had fought for was finally delivered, but it came at the cost of a life, Amanda's life. The trial had revealed the truth, but for those who loved Amanda, the damage was already done. The pain of her absence would linger, but her legacy would live on in her children, her friends, and in the lives of everyone she had touched with her kindness and strength. As we reflect on Amanda's story, we are reminded of the importance of listening to red flags in relationships. Trust is fragile, and when it's broken, the consequences can be devastating. If you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, please reach out for help. There is support, and there is strength in speaking out. Amanda's story teaches that silence only perpetuates pain, and the truth has the power to heal. If this story touched you, if it made you realize how dangerous silence can be, consider subscribing to True Crime Journal. Let's keep the conversation going and raise awareness about the dangers of domestic violence. And remember, if you or someone you love is in an abusive relationship, there is help. Don't let another person's silence become their sentence. Speak out, seek help, and stand strong.
Olivia Williams died after someone shot her a week ago today in Bladen County. Her boyfriend is in jail tonight, charged with her murder and the murder of her unborn child.
Pink confetti filled the air as Bolivia Monique Williams beamed with joy, surrounded by loved ones at her gender reveal party. The cake with "It's a Boy" written in blue icing confirmed the news. She was expecting a son. She had already picked out his name, Isaiah James. Just 16 days later, Bolivia lay dead on her living room floor, shot multiple times in her own home. Her unborn son never took his first breath. The killer wasn't a stranger who broke in during the night. It wasn't a robbery gone wrong. It was the very man who had helped create that life growing inside her, the father who should have protected them both. What drives a man to murder the mother of his unborn child? How does celebration turn to tragedy in just over 2 weeks? And what warning signs might have saved 2 precious lives? Before we dive deeper into this heartbreaking case, take a moment to subscribe to True Crime Journal and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us continue to share these important stories and could help someone recognize the warning signs before it's too late. Join our community committed to understanding these tragedies so we might prevent future ones. Born on March 10, 1991, in Columbus County, North Carolina, Bolivia Monique Williams was known for her vibrant spirit and infectious laugh. Friends described her as someone who lit up every room she entered, who approached life with boundless energy and optimism despite the challenges she faced. Yes, woo! Yes, child, Her joyful voice often rang out in videos she shared on social media, capturing moments of happiness with her children or celebrating small victories in her busy life. Bolivia attended Southeastern Community College, where classmates and professors remembered